Mailbank's Book Review.
Yeah. Only one. Knock, knock. Ding dong. Yo, G, what the hell's going on?
It's just another book that niggas ain't gonna read.
I'm Alex Wanna Cry MGTOW Till I Die. I want to give a shout out to the entire MGTOW verse. What's going on today? What's crack-a-lacking? You know, today was a very monumental day. I witnessed my, what am I going to say? I didn't know it before. Actually, when I was a kid, there was one, but there's a solar eclipse today, and I got to see a partial solar eclipse today. A milestone in my life. Now, a lot of people equate the eclipse with omens and things to come. It's been said that an eclipse can be of a negative omen, but really, when you look at eclipses in the way and the things that they represent, it almost represents a change or a rebirth of some sort. So I'm wishing all of you, my brothers from another mother, I'm wishing you well in these days to come. Renew yourself. Let your ego die today and renew yourself a new man tomorrow. Today I am going to comment and do a book review, Mailbank's book review, for my man Marcus A. Brown, a professional conservative Chicago brother. I'm sure some of you have seen his videos or his website, and I will put links in the description box. And he wrote a book called Just Another Book Niggas Ain't Gonna Read. And the cover is very funny. It reminds me of the characters that they have in Boondocks. And it has the stereotypical shoe stick chewing Egyptian musk wearing Hotep pro-black with the Ankh cross on, a weeded out gangster with a price tag on his hat, fitted cap, team gang, black female feminist with mohawk and shaved sides, and a rainbow tattoo on her arm in the shape of a heart, reading a book about feminism, telling her everything she needs to know about men. Oh, and I forgot to mention that Hotep has the book saying that black woman is God. You have on your far right, flanked on the far right, a behemoth of a, and now this is something that, you know, we see a lot of the obesity rates. Tattooed woman over the hill, probably crashed into the wall, reading a book about welfare. And all these books that niggas is a reading, but the one introspective young man in the front with the afro has got just another book that niggas won't read. Now, I could see these characters being in some kind of an animated series, kind of like Boondocks, where the guy in the front, he kind of reminds me of like Huey from Boondocks. But Huey's a little bit more pro-black. The guy looks very introspective. I could definitely see these characters being in some sort of animation. Now, there's 4 chapters that I plan on reviewing today, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do a part 2 to this. I definitely recommend you go out and get this book. It's well written. It's brief. The chapters make sense. The words are concise. And this book is This book is a self-help book of sorts. The first chapter I'm going to cover right now is chapter 21, Love, Legalities, and Hypergamy. Where, now, in this particular chapter, Arthur Brown, he outlines the feelings behind love, how love is a fleeting type of enamored feeling. he also mentions the scientific state of having oxytocin, which is usually released, a chemical released to encourage pair bonding and bonding. And he breaks it down to the very common sense notions of love. And then in this chapter, he also goes into how love is conditional. And he talks about hypergamy, and he talks about the manosphere. Now, one thing I do disagree with is there is a such thing as unconditional love. And that is the agape type of love. And that is that overall higher minded type of love. The love that you have when you say goodwill to all men, all mankind. And it's not the same as quid pro quo love, which is the conditional love. But in the aspect of what he's speaking, yes, the love is conditional, but we're talking about between men and women. So he explains hypergamy, and he talks about how the female hypergamy works, how it's marrying up, blase blase. Now, it's a great explanation. It breaks it down simply. But there's a part I disagree with in his book, and he has a section in that chapter called male hypergamy. Now, not to criticize the author, but the subject is male hypergamy is a falsehood. Men are hypogamous. You don't need to look no further than the Bateman principle, which governs the mating strategy of females in regards to females having the most risk when giving birth, and therefore need to choose the optimal mate for survivability. But also there's a logical fallacy, because both men and women cannot be hypergamous. If this was the case, we would not exist today. If someone is dating up, in order to couple off, the other person must be dating down. So aside from that, this chapter was pretty good. And then he goes into explaining the manosphere. Now, his illustration of the manosphere is a very interesting one, because we think of the manosphere, the loosely collected blogs, but when we think of any sphere, we think of like an ecosystem, or a biosphere, like a biome, like the Earth is. The Earth is a biosphere that contains all life within the sphere. But the way he has the manosphere is very creative when he explains it. And as you see here, he explains the manosphere as if it were layers to an atmosphere, with blue pill Earth being on the bottom, and the true force loneliness TFLers are in outer space. And in between, ascending from Earth to outer space, are the pickup artists, then the black manosphere, which he calls niggas, somewhere in between PUAs and MGTOW, but won't say it. and I think that really plays to the condition that black men have often been viewed as pussy hounds, and we're working in the Negro manosphere to change that perception. And then above that is the men's rights activists, and then men going their own way, MGTOW, and then it's like, man, fuck the system. And then the true force loneliness guys. So this is a pretty interesting chapter. I liked it. He talks about the catch-22 of marriage. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you get married, you're fucked. If you don't get married, and there's kids, no one is going to be able to take care of them. Common law marriage, and then you have these bastard kids, or for lack of a better term, but not to insult anyone born out of wedlock, but you'll have these kids placing strain on the system. One chapter that really touched me, and it was a very instrumental chapter, is the chapter that's called "Here's What's Going to Happen When You Die." And in this chapter, he talks about different famous people who were either celebrated or forgotten after their death. For example, Biggie Smalls, Tupac Shakur, and Emily Dickinson weren't really, they were recognized more after their death than they were when they were alive. But contrary to that, he also brings up Nikola Tesla, who was the subject of uh, exploitation to his inventions. Well, no, let me not just say exploitation. Let me just say that Nikola didn't capitalize. He was more concerned with the science of his inventions than the business of his inventions. But he gives several tips to the average person to live your life to the fullest. And he quotes an English painter, Evelyn de Morgan, that saying, "Art is eternal, but life is short." So he says in his advice, live your life in the way that you can reap the benefits of your decision in real time. If you get to be recognized, that's great. If not, oh well. He says, produce words from the heart and publish them. If there's an audience for your material, they will find it in due time. Inspire others to reach their greatest potential. Reward people who are loyal to you. Be charitable within your means and at your own discretion. And document your good deeds. And appreciate others when others give you credit, but don't be surprised if they renege on you. Now, here's the thing. A couple of things that got me about these words of advice that I would like to expound upon would be rewarding the people who are loyal to you. And like he says in one of his other chapters, which I'm going to probably get into next, which is don't sell out, max out. A lot of people are spending money on a lot of things that don't really matter to impress people that they don't like. So the people that ride or die for you, definitely ride or die with them. And another thing that that got to me was living your life in a way that you can reap the full benefits of your decisions in real time. In other words, none of this, I'm going to get my reward in heaven. Heaven is here and now, and life is what you make it right now, and you are responsible for living your best life the best way that you can. The next chapter, like I said I was going to take you to, that I'd like to talk about, is the chapter on don't sell out, max out. Now, he explains selling out as, I quote, selling out can be described as betraying one's own kind for the sake of personal advancement, at least this is the context in which it's used in poverty-stricken inner cities of the Western world. But he likes to add on to that. He says, don't compromise your personal advancement for the sake of remaining loyal to socialist tribes. The root of what selling out is if that's the root of what's selling out. And in the act of selling if you don't sell yourself out, you're going to be in the act of selling yourself short to please and keep up with everyone's expectations. People you don't owe anything to, people who don't add any value into your life. So instead of not selling out, he recommends not to max out. And again, this is a great chapter. It's a really brief chapter, but it's really powerful in the sense that the hive mind will try to get you to go in their direction using shaming tactics. And if you don't go with the tribe, then you are effectively ostracized and considered a sellout. But anyways, the last chapter that I want to touch upon is the Red Pill Rage chapter. And in this chapter, he brilliantly draws the parallel between the Red Pill Rage and the 5 stages of grief. And the 5 stages of grief by the psychiatrist Elizabeth Kubler-Ross are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And these 5 stages are equated to how red pill rage happens. The denial, you know, not all women are like that, but enough of them are. The anger, when you find out that shit, a lot of them are like that. Most of them are like that. Bargaining, trying to justify, trying to, why this is the case, instead of facing the reality of it. Then the sadness, the depression, the sadness and anxiety of the fact that it's not the way you want it to be, but it is the way it is. And then finally, acceptance. Fuck it, we're going our own way. So, this is a very good book. I highly recommend it. Pick it up. I'm going to include a link in the description box where you can get the book. You can check out his website and his pages. And like always,
The struggle is real, real, real.